You are watching Co-op for Two, broadcasting live from Champaign, Illinois, June 28th, 2023, around 11 p.m. Wednesday evening. Today, we're going to do something a little bit unusual that should make most of you exit right away, which is that we're going to go back into the Escape Tales Children of Wyrmwoods box, a game we just finished playing 2 days ago, and we're going to look at all the things that we never saw during the gameplay. This is an escape room game which has got multiple paths, so there were a lot of cards we didn't see. There were some choices where we picked A, and we're curious to see what B turns out to be. So we're going to sort of look under the hood of this game and see what was really going on. We'll probably also spend some time just talking more about our thoughts of the game. I would love to hear your thoughts, the people who played this game with me or who have played it before. If you're watching this not live but after the fact, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But this will be full of spoilers. If you have not played this game, and I think you should play this game, it is worth your time and money, you shouldn't watch this stream. You can come back and watch it after you finish playing. A little bit of bookkeeping before we get started. The last letter, the fourth letter from the Dear Holmes series that we've been playing, The Fickle Fiancés, has arrived. So I have scheduled that session for Sunday at 3 p.m. Those are our short sessions. So that's confirmed. We will be doing that. At some point during today's session, we'll have a little taste test of this new Coke Zero. Maybe this is a good time to remind you that this channel takes no funding from anyone. There's no publisher money. All of the games we're playing were bought by me. We're going to try to keep things unbiased here. But if you haven't played this game and you're just looking for a quick summary before you leave, it took us 27 hours spread out over 5 sessions to play this game. I loved it. I think everyone had a good time. Maybe I liked it more than others. We'll find out. And you can get this game on sale for like $25 now, which is insane. And there's one more box that I haven't played. So there's Escape Tales The Awakening, and then there's Escape Tales Low Memory, and this is the third one, Children of Wyrmwood. And it doesn't look like they're making more of these. Obviously, a lot of work went into making this, but they have, I just saw an announcement on Board Game Geek that the people involved in this game have spun off to do sort of, I think it's called Side Quest. It was just on Board Game Geek. And it looks like what they're doing is escape rooms using some of the system they've developed here, but in the IP in worlds that already exist, like in other board game IP. Maybe someone can bring it up or look at it on the chat and tell us. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the game if you've played it and you're joining us for this. Anything else to talk about? I think that's about it. Remember, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. If you haven't played this game and you like escape room games, you should leave and buy and play this game and watch it afterwards. All right, let's check in with the chat. Let me know. So I've got my list of things. I've got my list of cards we never saw. I've got my collection of cards that we saw but made choices we want to look at. And then I've got the cards we've seen already. Matt says, I put some of my overall thoughts on the YouTube video. I actually have brought those up. Jonathan had some long thoughts and Matt had some long thoughts. Jonathan and I are sort of, what's the word? We're like two peas in a pod when it comes to thoughts. And I love hearing everyone's thoughts, but Jonathan's in particular are always interesting to me. And Jonathan made a couple interesting points that I think we might want to talk about. Matt had some good points too. So I did bring them up. We could look at those thoughts at some point if we want to. Matt also reminds us that this company made a book game called the Book of Rituals that ties into this one, that has little Easter eggs of this. And it's actually, it looks like it's quite a long experience. So another very generous set of puzzles, and I've heard good things about it. So I may pick up that book. If you like puzzle books, then it seems like that would be a very good one to check out, the Book of Rituals. Maybe we'll play it here on the channel. Okay, so while I'm waiting for thoughts, please do jump in and let me know your thoughts here. Let me just see if we can take a look at some of this stuff here so we have some idea. So here are the cards that we played through. And including these. These are ones that we want to. I need to keep everything organized because it's so easy to get these mixed up. So here are all cards we've seen. Vocation cards we've seen. Cards we've seen that all got discarded and we finished. And then these are the cards for our character, Gilbert, all his stats increasing cards and items that we ended the game with. Okay, so I don't know why these are so mixed up. Okay, so here's Gilbert and all his stats. And then here's my pile of cards that we wanted to revisit. And we can look at those choices in a second. And locations that we didn't fully investigate. This one in particular, we exited this area very quickly. So I know there are places we want to look at there. And so we're going to look at those. We've got our paragraph books to scan through. Then the app itself has different epilogues that it gives you permission to read after you finish. Unlocks, you can read them. So we shouldn't need to look at those. But we are going to look at these. And then, having seen that, here's a stack of cards that we never even got access to. Maybe 70 cards here? Plus a stack of rest and focus cards that we never chose to draw, which we could have. And so we're kind of curious what happens if you try to get to the bottom of the focus and rest deck. And then 2 locations that we never saw, full of puzzles. We're not sure where those could be found, perhaps in the village that we spent so little time on. So I'm not sure how long this stream will take. You would think it would go pretty quickly, but it depends how long we want to go. We could actually sit here and work on those puzzles that we never saw. I think probably we won't do that. Jonathan Warner says, do you have any areas in particular you'd like more of our thoughts on? No, just I guess if things jump to your mind, maybe we'll come back to some of our final thoughts on the game periodically. Let's start by going through the choices that we didn't make and see what those give us. And we'll do them, I guess, in chronological order. So let's see. Okay, so here was a giant one. This one plagued me the whole course of the game. In fact, this card plagued me. Very early on in the prologue, we noticed a ring on a table. and we had a choice after we looked at it. We could reach in the worm vines and grab this ring, or not reach in. Now, when we started playing this game, we were played very cautiously, and we took to heart the suggestion by the game that you hurry up. Don't waste time in this game. Don't dawdle. Bad things will happen to you. You should hurry. We took that very seriously until we got into the heart of Chapter 2. And we were told these worm vines hurt you and could make you mad, and you can see all these little quills. So really, this looked like it would hurt us. And when we chose not to reach in, nothing happened, but then we lost this option. Now notice this one does say choose now. So this one did force us to choose now. All right, so we didn't reach in. Now we're going to see what happens if you did reach in. So I believe this was prologue, which is in storybook 1. Okay. So let's see what happened if you chose to reach in. Paragraph 6. I'm very curious about this. With the quick move, you reach for the ring. Then, as you touch the worm vines, your vision starts to blur and you fall to the ground. When you regain consciousness, you have no idea how much time has passed. Better hurry and leave those vines at peace. Discard card 156, that was the choose. You lose 2 action tokens. If you do not have enough tokens left, resolve a rest or focus card first. Remember that all your decisions will impact the story in one way or another. Tread carefully. Okay, that's fascinating. So this was a theory put forth by one of the people who were playing in the chat with us. They said, I don't think the game's going to let you have that ring. I think it's just going to teach you a lesson. And sure enough, it's just a bad outcome. It's a loss of 2 action tokens. And it's just to teach you that not everything is good. So we made the right choice there. 2 action tokens, that hurts. All right. Well, this thing that plagued me the whole time, we made the right choice. We'll get back to the how much of these choices are illusions, how much of these are real. And but okay, quite fascinating. All right, where was our next decision point? So I'm going to leave the exploring out of the way for a second. We're just going to look at these big choice points. Okay. Another one was what to get the hunter, but that's a location one, so we're going to do this. Okay, let's try this one. I'm not sure we even need to do this one. There are 2 towers you can find. When you find one, you open it up. And at some point, it unlocks you to the next one. And this just controls the order. So I don't think we even need to mess with that. But this was a rather... No, here was the other one that we agonized over. And Tina says that one, that ring was not real because you lost all the modifiers at the end of the prologue. But did we take our action tokens with us? We did, so we would have had 2 less action tokens. Okay, this one we agonized over. Because we weren't sure. First of all, this is in chapter 2. We were desperate to find the right things. We had no spare time. We couldn't afford to make a mistake. And we didn't know what this caveman wanted. And we agonized about, is there a right answer for this? Now, it's not a puzzle card, so we knew it wasn't guaranteed to have an answer, but we didn't know if there was another card to find that would tell us how to answer him, or if there was some pattern to his speaking that would tell us one of these is bad. Is he saying, like, do you want to fight or do you want to have lunch with me? And we didn't want to say we want to fight. We didn't know which one to say. Maybe he's saying, are you an enemy or a friend? We didn't know. So we tried to avoid it as long as we can. Then we tried to come up with a theory for what these two answers meant. Eventually, the best I came out with was we were trying to get into the time tower, and he says tiki-taka, and I thought, okay, that sounds a little like tick-tock, so maybe this is the choice that has to do with the time tower. So we went here, and when we did, we got a very nice paragraph of him wanting to dance with us, which was kind of fun after spending so much time worrying about it. It was quite fun that when we did do it, it says, the man smiles and starts dancing around. He grabs your arm and shoves something into your hand. After finding out that you cannot dance, he goes back to whatever he was doing. So he gave us something. I forget what he gave us. He gave us a stone lei, a necklace full of stones. Okay, so what would have happened if we had said Wagga Wagga? Let's read that. 238. If you had to guess, we would guess that it's just a different other good thing, but not bad. But let's see. The man starts jumping around while patting his forehead with his finger. Then he simply runs out of the cave. You notice and pick up what he left behind. Wow, he leaves. All right, 97. Was that the same thing, or was that a different card? Let's see if it's in the cards we never saw. Okay, it's a new card. It's a different card we would have gotten. Not the stone lei. Let's take a look at what the stone lei was. Okay, so here's what he gave us when we went dancing with him by saying tiki-taka, a lei of stones. Now let's see what we had gotten if we said the other one. A stick with something sticky. It's sticky and stinky, and you don't want to know what it is. So that looks like you might be able to use it to get something. Let's compare, though. Look at that. The tiki-taka did give us spirit for the Chrono Tower, whereas this one doesn't. But more importantly, this we didn't have any use for, but I wonder if this one would actually have a use. So I think maybe this one just gives you spirit as a decoration. This one feels more like a tool. I don't remember anything that could have needed this, though. Maybe someone else does. Okay. Pretty interesting. It did have different effects. Here's another choice we made late in the game. She asks us if we want to help her, and we say, hold on, slow your roll. Why don't you just tell me what kind of magic you're trying to do first? This seemed like the crazy answer where we were just like, let's just go for it. We don't need to know anymore. We want to end this game, go here. So if we had done that, that would have been 310. Let's see what would have happened if we said that. She says, then take this book. It's of no use to me now. I hope that whatever you do, your decision will not hurt anyone. If you do survive, find me again right here. I hope to be part of a new and better world. Take card 153. Was that the... When did we get 153? Is it a different book? Okay, so we already got 153. Did we get it from her no matter what? 331 is the one we did do. Okay, so 331, look at this. She gives us a much longer description of what she's going for. I can show you how to get there. And then she gave us two choices. We ended up, because we had spirit, we went to 336, which gave us much more story. And then took us to 328, which gave us much more story. and then gave us card 153 in addition to 17. So if you tell her to tell you more, you get much more story and some branching points that if your story was bad, you wouldn't get. And then you get, in addition to the 153, the book that she would have given you if you told her, I don't want to hear about it, just give me the book. But you also get 17. Oh, that's how you meet Sevilla. There's another way to meet Sevilla, but if you tell her, tell me more about it, then she eventually walks you through the whole thing and you meet Sevilla if you have high enough sanity and everything. Otherwise, if you say, I don't want to hear about it, she just gives you the book and you move along. You have to find Sevilla differently. While we're here, let's check this thing out. So if we had told her to tell us more, but we didn't have high enough spirit, which is very possible. In fact, we were first going to leave that whole towers with low spirit. Then we would end up at 311. You try and try, but nothing happens. You ask your assistant staff for help and receive some instructions, mainly something related to an ancient text called The Hitchhiker's Guide to Magic, but even that does not help. Eventually, you give up and turn to Mora. Doesn't work, you exclaim, explaining the obvious. Please, at least tell me about your failed attempts. I promise to do my best to find I promise to do my best to find whatever you might have missed. There must be something. She reluctantly gives in and begins to patiently recount more stories, each more detailed than the last one. So if we have more sanity, that picks us back on the trail to find Sevilla. If we have low sanity, then we get shuffled off to 301. The stories Mora tell you are never happy ones. Using pieces of chalk you found lying around, you start covering the walls with charts and maps and diagrams of how they connect. You do your best to find anything they have in common, to find a weak spot you could exploit and alter so that the world would become better. At some point, a sudden gust of wind distracts you and destroys a part of your drawing. You shout and rush to recover what was there. You jump back and forth, analyzing every strand once again, asking Mora more and more questions about the visions. Gilbert, she starts silently. Yes, you answer immediately. You remembered something new? Is that it? You ask, feverish excitement ringing in your voice. It was Sevilla, says Mora. Who? You ask, blinking. Where? Right here. She came looking for you. She said that she spent 2 years trying to find you, Morris says, looking at you closely. You didn't even notice her. It takes you a moment to realize that Mora is not trying to simply share yet another story. Takes you even longer to recall the name Sevilla from memories buried somewhere deep inside your mind. When you finally do, something new dawns on you. Do you see it now? Asks Mora. There's no happy ending. No benevolent way to wield this power. Whatever you do, in the end, you lose, Gilbert. All you want to do now is scream in anger, but you no longer know how to scream. All you know is there's no time to waste. You have to find the answer. The time for mourning will come only when you truly understand everything, when you know all there is to know. You pick up a rock and start carving new diagrams. At least these will not be easily marred by a stupid human bumbling into your sanctuary. You don't need sleep anymore. You don't need food or water. You exist only to analyze everything you hear from Mora and what you find in her book. The fate of the world outside remains a mystery, for you are now in a place you never wished to leave. The end. So this is what you get if you somehow can drive your sanity below 0. And it is a good question. How would you do that? I think you would do that by focusing and resting incessantly, but we can look into that. I'm not sure how easy that would be to do. Okay, so that's the end of our choices that we didn't make. Then there are some locations we didn't go. I don't expect much interesting in this place. So the only thing we didn't go into this place is we didn't look at this corner here. And I think maybe we skipped this corner here. I'm not sure that's really worth our time trying to investigate, but maybe we'll check it out quickly just to give us some just to see how much information the game puts at places where it doesn't look like there should be anything. So it's these places like this, like this. All right, so let's just see. This was chapter 1. We didn't go here. 22. 22 says, the stairs that took you here are now blocked by steel bars. Below you see a broken tripwire you failed to notice before. It probably triggered some alarm. Well, there goes the sneaky approach. Some areas like this one will give you no cards. However, they may still contain valuable information. So as expected, nothing in the boring place. And then the other place we didn't bother with was 13. So this would be if you made poor decisions the whole time. No, that's not right. 13. Hold on, 13. Shackled chains to the wall. Judging by the stains, they've been used a lot. Someone has been torturing the townsfolk? For what reason? Some areas like this will give you no cards. However, they may still contain valuable information. Okay, so looks like maybe I read the wrong card before too. No? 22. Okay, so as expected, we ignored those locations for good reason. They had nothing important for us, so we did the right thing there. However, there were locations that were more intriguing to us. And this was one of them, the whole town. So the town, this was in chapter 1, and this was during when we were still rushing to get out of here. And we actually had a great plan. When we knew what to do here, we knew how to blow open this gate. We got out of here with lots to spare, and we used those all in chapter 2. So I feel very good about our decision, but we didn't explore this village much at all. Where did we go? We made a mistake going to the marketplace. Then the smart people in our group said, look, go to the gate, go here. They guessed that it was going to be locked and we would have to break it open. And that was all correct. All of the theories was correct. We went right to here. We got a hint about needing to blow it open, and we went straight to the animal hunter alchemist and got the stuff to blow open the gate, and we didn't go to any of these other places. We didn't go to the moneylender. We didn't go to the church. We didn't go to the ruins. We didn't go to the inn. We didn't go to the fisherman. I think we might have gone to the tailor because we needed something. We didn't go here. So let's check out these places quickly. We'll just go through them top to bottom, left to right. If anyone wants to take a break and talk about something else because they want to leave, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll just walk through these quickly. Okay, fisherman's hut. You enter the fisherman's hut and help with finding some ropes that could help you get across the wall. After inspecting all the ropes and nets, you discover all of them are rotten. There's no way they could support your weight. When you're just about to give up, you find a small chest with a sturdy lock. Interesting. Whatever is in it might be of use to you. Take card 10. Okay, so that's something we didn't see. A hook. Return my money. Okay, clearly a mention about clearly a reference to the moneylender. So maybe an alternate way to get out of this town other than blowing open the gate. Maybe there were two paths to get out of this town, and this is one of them. All right, well, let's head right down to the moneylender then to see if that's what that's about. 101. The walls in this district seem to have partially crumbled not long ago. They're also free of worm vines. Maybe you could use this route to get out. Before you go, you stumble upon a moneylender's house. The money will probably be of little use to you now, but the house could be full of other items as well. Upon entering, you see that the place was already cleaned out by robbers. The only thing not taken is the safe, still sealed and locked, and a loan book. Intrigued, you come closer, only to get your leg suddenly stuck between broken floorboards. However, as you look into the hole you made, you find something that even the looters had missed. A spyglass here? Take cards 4 and 122. So there's the safe with the book. And then collected debts from the tailor, from the alchemist. To collect, the fisherman owes money and the perfumer owes money. And then there's the spyglass down here. And then you also get this. If you combine the proper item with the wall, you'll leave town for good and proceed to the next location. So indeed, it's a second way to get out. We didn't even encounter that. And this looks like it's related to a puzzle. In fact, it is a puzzle that maybe, well, surely we'll use this to get out this if we can get this. But we need a way to get into this. Is this a puzzle on its own, or does it need something else? Well, let's keep going and see. Next place we didn't go was to the inn, 168. I don't know if you guys are interested in doing this in all these details, or should we just skip through these and not bother reading them? You let me know. Big Belly Inn, very ironic name. You doubt anyone in the village ever had a really full belly. Food is simply too scarce to ever eat more than what is needed to sustain oneself. Maybe the times were different back in the day. Whatever the origin of this name was, as you enter the inn, feeling both intrigued and hopeful, inside you find a man with a lute, sitting at a table and smiling happily at you. You try to start a conversation, but he does not respond. Instead, he starts to sing a song that doesn't really make sense. It's possible the poor wretch has been driven mad by the worm vines. Take card 14. Wow, that's crazy that we met a man. Okay, let's see who we met here. Okay, so it's a song, and it's a different puzzle than the safe. So we've encountered a second puzzle that we never saw. Okay. I have a little taste of my thing. And Tina says, I think you use the spyglass as a ruler in the location to find out the distances that asks you in the second page. Interesting. All right, let's try this Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Ultimate Edition, which all of these limited flavors are all bullshit. It's when they've figured out they can't sell them, so they come up with some way to make you buy it. Yeah, it's not good. It tastes like a little bit. It tastes like it's got those like chalky candies, like Pez. It almost tastes like Pez is in your soda. Mm-hmm. No reason to drink. Okay. Use the spyglass. It wasn't the ultimate soda. No, it wasn't. Spyglass is a ruler in the location cards to find out the distances that it asks you on the second page. Okay, let's keep going. We went to the Animal Hunter. Now, I'm very curious what this place was like. 152. This entire part of the city is collapsed. You try to climb the debris to get over the wall, only to find an impassable worm vine above. Maybe there's a way to get through, but the area is too large and you couldn't find it quickly by yourself. Take card 50. Okay. So it's an object card. We tried to get over the walls. We couldn't. There's a tree that's been chopped down. And look at this big giant cleaver it looks like we could get. All right. That's a weird card, though. All right, we went here. That's where we looked at the gate. Let's try right when we walked in, 132. Let's see if that's anything. So right when you walk in, if you bother to go to that place, it just says that's the way back into town. Not a good time to go back. Okay, that would have been a mistake. We went to the moneylender, we went to the alchemist, we went to the perfumer, but we didn't go to the tailor. Tailor says, there's no better place to get some fabric than the tailor. You rush in and find some fabrics that seem like they can still be of use to you. A rope made of them would definitely be useful in escaping the city or wandering through the forest. Unfortunately, no single piece is enough to make a usable rope. But there is some sort of contraption that could bind them together. Judging by the pictogram nearby, you'll need scraps of fabric that form a rectangle. Let's get to it. Card 131. So looks like we've got another puzzle thing. It makes sense that there were a bunch of puzzles in this town that we didn't do because we were so efficient here. All right. So yet another puzzle. And if we sew them together, we could make a rope of some sort. Okay, and then the last place in the village we didn't go, 105. An old graveyard, not used for a long time, but still quite scary. You've heard stories of the creepy undertaker who was secretly in love with one of the local girls. He never told her about it, and when she died, he went crazy and left the city. Stories say his cries can be heard by those who dare to touch the worm vines. Maybe you'll find something of use in his toolbox. Take card 148. Yet another puzzle. So it looks like in the town, we could have found a bunch of standalone puzzles. A graveyard puzzle, a tailor puzzle, this little card, which isn't a puzzle by itself, the Song of the Lute puzzle, the safe puzzle. These two cards are objects that presumably we might be able to access with these. So 4 new puzzles here. This one looks like you probably just need to figure out the date here. We've got a chest that can be opened up, I guess, if we know the information. Sybil Lorry, cat born. Then these look like they just assemble spatially. I see. So this one, and Tina was saying we would just measure places. So the distance between the money lender and the tailor is probably 230 meters on this scale. And if we measure to the fisherman and to the perfumer, we would get 2 numbers here, which would give us the answer. These you probably just have to put in order. This one, not clear to me how you solve this one. So in order to see what objects we'd get, we'd have to solve these. Could you show us the music note puzzle? Okay, there you go. You got it. Let me look at the chat. So I do notice, I'm trying to think what I'm looking at this one here, the gravestones. I mean, I do notice that they're different shapes. That's round with a cross. This is like a octagon on the top. 3 here. John says, if you guys want to spend a little time trying to solve them, I don't mind. I think probably it's not important because what's going to happen is you're going to solve these. They're going to get you objects, which will let us get the hook so we can climb over the wall. Or something else. They're all going to be ways to get over this. Maybe this lets us get that, which lets us get over this, etc. Just different ways. And in fact, we could go through the deck at the end and probably find those objects. But I don't think we need to spend time solving all these. I mean, if people want to, we certainly could. And Tina says the music one, I think you get the letters where there's no music note. So are you saying you think that we've got a D without a note, an O and an N without a note, an R, a U? That's a lot of letters without notes. You want to see how many answers this puzzle was? So it's this one. Oh yeah, okay, I think you're right there. All right, let's put this one in. So if we combine them, and Tina was right, we've got D. Oh, let's see, I gotta turn on my keyboard. So D doesn't have a note. O, N, T, don't. G, R, U, S. Don't trust me. Don't trust me is what the notes are, missing notes are. Okay, very clever. All right, 146. If we had solved the crazy loot thinger, we would have read this. 146. You shout the answer at the man. He immediately stops singing, his face abruptly changing from happiness to sorrow. He looks at you and speaks hastily. There's a hidden way out near the old butcher's house under a fallen tree. You'll have to go through the basement, but first you'll need a shovel. Please take me with you. Before you can answer, his face changes back to the empty happiness you witnessed but a moment ago, and he continues singing his nonsense. So you throw out the puzzle and take 135 and 168. Look at that. So he gives us a map of that thing we noticed with the secret way out, and he says, he just implied I shouldn't trust him. Besides, he'd slow me down. Or, I don't know him, but there's no way I'm leaving him behind. How fascinating is that? I'd be inclined to trust the song. So if he said, don't take me, don't trust me, I wouldn't trust him. But maybe we shouldn't trust his way out. All right, let's see if we read the one that said 164. He'd slow me down, so I'm not going to take it. All right, so if we read that one, we get, seeing how the man is back to smiling and playing his lute, you easily convince yourself that his madness could be disastrous to you on your quest. Just throw it out. All right, so you would just throw out this card. But if you do decide to take him with you, here's what happens. Maybe you shouldn't trust crazy people touched by worm vines, but you simply cannot help yourself. This poor soul deserves better. You have no idea what awaits you in the forest, but it cannot be worse than being stuck in this abandoned city. Throw out the puzzle. Take card 54. This is a modifier card. So we take him with us on our journey. What did he do? He gave us a little bit of charisma. Cost us a sanity. That's another way to lose sanity. Okay. And then, presumably, you discard this card. Presumably, with this map, we can combine with this to get out of the village, right? Shall we see what happens if you do that? 150, 168, and 50. $106. So here's another way you can leave the village. You follow the bard's descriptions and easily find the entry to the basement under a fallen tree. Back in the day, it was probably used to move contraband in and out of the city. Now the entrance has collapsed. You won't get through this barrier barehanded. Take card 43. So this was the thing about needing a shovel. So it's a third way to get out, but you need some proper item, probably a shovel. So it's yet another way to get out of the village. So we got out of the village very efficiently, very quickly. We could have gone through all of this and had many more steps. Maybe we could have used our bomb here instead of at the gate. That's an interesting point. You're right. We may have been able to use the bomb to blow up these rocks. Quite possible. Quite possible. All right. You want to move on, or you want to see how to solve these puzzles and what happens when you do? What does the group want to do? Shall we move along? Shall we solve these puzzles? I'm curious about this one. We've got our money lender to our tailor. Let me just do this out. Money lender to tailor. If I use the card, if I use this card, I get the, basically, if I use the ruler here, I get 210, 20, 30. So exactly 230. So to the fisherman, it looks like the answer might be 200. Enter the perfumer. Could be 210 or 200. So if we do this puzzle, it wants 6 digits. What would you say those were? Is it 200, 200, or let's try 200, 200, whoops. 200, 200, or was it something not quite? No. Let's see. To the fisherman, looked like 200. To the perfumer, could be 210. Clearly this is the right idea, but it's not clear to me exactly what it wants number-wise. That sure looks like it would be 200. And maybe fisherman's not exactly 200. Huh. I'm a little confused by what it wants. Fisherman, perfumer. Tailor is 230. 10, 20, 30. That just looks right. I'm not sure what it wants, if not 200, 200. Any ideas about why these numbers aren't quite right? Oh, I see. There is an X. Sorry, there is an X here. So there is a place to line it up. Okay, so where's the X on the perfumer? Right there. Okay, so that's 210. All right, that's pretty cool, actually, that there are X's here. And then the fisherman, where's his X? Right there. So if we line up X and X, we get 180. 180 and 210, it looks like to me. Okay, that's pretty cute. 114. All right, so if we do 114, you decipher the notes, open the safe. Inside you find a few rusty coins and a key. It might come in handy. Now it wants us to take card 2. Okay, so we get a key. It looks like an octopus key, which makes sense that the fisherman would have the octopus key. So now we could combine the octopus key 2 with 010, and we read 143. The key fits and the lock springs open. Inside you find a hook that somehow stood the test of time. It's still very sharp. You're certain that you'll find a proper use for it. Then you take card 85. Okay, so there's our hook. Get rid of these. Now we have a hook. Safe is done. So would we use the hook to get over this? I think probably we need rope, right? We need hook and rope to make a grappling hook to get over that. So for that, we'd need to, I guess we're in for a penny, in for a pound. We're now solving the rest of these puzzles here in the town. All right, where are our spatial reasoners to solve this one for us? I noticed they've got their letters. Oh, we don't have to solve this. We can look up the hints and solve it. Let's do that. Let's just look up the hints for this one. So this is the X puzzle, unless you guys want to work on it. No, I mean, I think let's just take some hints for this one. You don't need all the materials. I guess maybe it's saying we only need to fill in here, maybe. Remember, you can rotate the scraps. Start from A. You need to choose the correct elements to form a rectangle. Answer is A, B, C, D, E. Well, those are not my favorite kinds of puzzles, so I'm glad we didn't stick with this one. A, B, C, D, E. Okay, that would give us 110. 110 says, we stitch together a few pieces of clothing, creating a makeshift rope. Take card 105. There's our, somehow we made this rope from those pieces of fabric. Now, surely we're gonna do this. Okay, which combines these to give us 147. This is our grappling hook. And then surely we use the grappling hook to get over the fence. So that'll be another way to leave the chapter 1. No, don't even need to test it. Okay, so last question before we finish up with this area is this one. So you know what's going to be in here. The Gravedigger's Tools is going to have a shovel. Any theory about how to answer this one? Surely it's going to be a 3-digit answer. So let's go here and do it. It's a 3-digit answer. Before I ask for hints, get a solution, where are our puzzle people? What do you think? Be nice to know, to at least hypothesize what it's asking for. So it's asking for the second half of the scratched off one for Sybil Laurie. If you had to guess, you'd say there's probably a pattern here. Let me see. Is there a pattern in the difference between the numbers? 177 to 212 is 2335 difference. It's definitely not a simple subtraction. They're not all 35. Does it have to do with the shape? Does it have to do with their name? Probably not shape. What does the chat think? John says, maybe let's do with the amount of edges on the tombstone. It's a lot of, we have to get a 3-digit number out of it, though. So one option is it's always a pattern between the first set of numbers and the second, and if we figure out the generic pattern, we'd know how to do that pattern to Sybil Laurie's. But the other possibility is that somehow the name tells us how to do the manipulation. They're all fairly similar numbers. 170, 180, 201. And Tina says, I think I got it. Okay, let's hear it. One thing I noticed, the difference between the number of letters in the first and last name when it doesn't... No, it doesn't work. And Tina says, the difference is the number of letters in the names. Yeah, that's what I thought I saw here, because 3 and 3 gives you a 0 increase here, 2 to 2. And then this is 1 bigger, so it goes by 1. 1 bigger goes up by 1. But then here is 2 smaller, so that kind of messes with that. So, and then I don't know how, I wouldn't know how to get the other digits. Cat 3, born 5. 35. I see. So here we've got bell 3, pot 3. So 33 distance between these two numbers. And here we've got 5 over 4 is 54. When you add 54, you get this. And then here we've got 65. So the difference is 65. Here we've got 3, 5. Difference is 35. So Sybil's first name has 5 digits. Second name has 4 digits, so 54. When you add 54 to that, you get, when you add 54 to 197, you get 251. 251, is that right? Is my math right? Yes. All right, well done. Nicely figured out, Antina. 166. Boy, you're fast at these. You enter the code, open the gravedigger's locker. Inside, you find a sturdy shovel. Take card 99. Okay, well, that's a scary looking shovel. All right, let's get out using this and see what happens. I don't know what would happen if you tried to blow this up. Maybe that would work too. So if we combine 99 with 43, 099 043, you get 165. Surely just a different way to leave the village. You grab the shovel, dig your way through to the other side of the rubble. Even though the shovel breaks halfway, you manage to finish the job with your bare hands. Discard all the stuff. That's it. Basically discard it all, and then you leave the village. I see. It sounds like maybe you could have blown the hole, and we would have gotten this too. So it's the rubble we get through. Take location card 4. Whoa. This would have actually gotten us to a new location. We would have discarded the items, but it doesn't get us out of the village the way the other ones did. This one gets us into this location. What? And gives us 4 more actions. Is that possibly right? Yep. So if we had blown our hole in, we would have ended up down here. That's craziness. Card 62. If we had used the shovel and gotten down here, we would be in a totally new location. One of the 2 locations we never went to. With new puzzles. That's pretty insane. But we would have been given more tokens to complete them. Let's check scaling the wall to see what it does. Okay. So if instead of going that way, we had chosen to scale the wall. $147 and $122. 109 we would have read. $109 says, you walk along the crumbling wall in search of a perfect place to use your rope, finding a suitable location after a short search. Using the rope and the hook, you easily get to the other side, but quickly notice there's no way to free the hook from the wall. Perhaps one day someone will use it again. So it says, throw away all the cards, and then read 130. A horrid smell welcomes you to the other side of the wall. Swamp water and pale bloated corpses are drifting on its surface. This definitely was not the best place for a graveyard, unless the sad sight was the intention. Whatever the cause, you need to get through this hellish place somehow. You carefully walk over solid ground for about an hour until you find yourself before a half-sunken old tower. Whoa, there's no way of returning to the town, so you go inside. Okay, so now that's the last remaining location card. So now I guess what we found is that, and then 133. So there's 3 different ways to leave the town. 3 different ways to leave the town. No, that's the wrong one. $16. 3 different ways to leave the town. We blew open the gate and we got our own new location when we did. But if you had gone out the other 2 ways, you would have gotten either this location if you went to the underground, or this location if you went over with the rope to a tower. New puzzles in each of these ways out. You only go to these locations or these locations. Whatever these are more puzzles, presumably in this deck. Different ways to get out. This place looks pretty darn cool. This place only has numbers on these 2 bottom ones. Okay, but different paths to finish up chapter 1. And Tina says, where are these locations on the map? So yeah, if we put our map together, I'm not sure where these different locations, but we blew our way out through here. So you might imagine that one was up here somewhere. Maybe the other one was down here. I'm not sure. All right. Well, we're not going to play these through, but you could see this could take us a couple more hours ago, quite a while to solve all of these puzzles. Maybe there's only a couple puzzles on each one. This only has 2 locations to go. Strange. Okay, but we're not going to do these. We understand the idea of them. I'll put these in a different pile here. All right. Now, boy, this is going on longer than I thought. Okay. This was a very interesting place for us, where the fisherman asked us to get him something. And where is that fisherman? We went to this place here, got a puzzle, unlocked the compartment, we got magic mushrooms, and brought them to the fisherman. But we did notice, we absolutely noticed this tiny little detail of a bird's nest here. So we were curious about that. So let's go and see what it says about that bird's nest. Feels like we could be here all night exploring all these if we're not careful. So let's not go crazy. Jonathan says, check Jesse. Matt wants to see trying to mix the blue flame with the blue spirit orb. Oh yeah, that was a good question. Okay, don't let me forget that. We're going to get to that in a second here. We're almost done with chapter 1. Okay, high on the branch you see a bird's nest. Your stomach rumbles for a moment, reminding you about the time that has passed since your last meal, and then take 112. Okay, so if we had gone up to the bird's nest, we would have gotten this. No puzzle. That's interesting. What happens if you try to give him the bird's nest? Let's see what he says about that. That seems like it's too easy. That doesn't even require a puzzle solving. What's he going to say about that? All right, Hunter. Do you want this bird's nest? Nope. The bird's nest is not good enough for him. So maybe you gotta get the bird's nest somehow. Let's see what happens if we go to 156. Says this place is probably frequented by at least some of the forest creatures on a regular basis. You deduce from the smell and decide not to investigate any further. Okay, so if you try to go down to the bottom, it's wasted. What if you go here? There's a patch of ground with no plants and loose soil as if recently moved. Oh, someone buried something. 59. Huh. Well, that's weird. I guess we could ask Gilbert to look at that. Prefer to keep my hands clean. Maybe I could use a shovel. So you would have kept your shovel? You didn't use up your shovel if you had gotten out this way? But we came this way on our own and we didn't have a shovel. So we could have gotten here and encountered this without the shovel in our hands. That's quite fascinating. That would have really stumped us. But maybe we had some other item that we would have gotten that we could use. All right. That's weird. Because we got to this place on our own, but we did not have the shovel. So what if we had found this and wanted to dig it up? Do we have something else to dig it up with? I guess it didn't say to get rid of it, but my point was we exited the town without the village, so if we had tried to do this, we wouldn't have been able to do it. You dig for some time until the handle of your shovel breaks. Before that happens, you manage to find something interesting. So if you had, this may be a little reward if you found the shovel but did not go out through that way. Because if you did go out through that way, remember the shovel broke. So this is a little reward for if you found the shovel but then didn't use the shovel to get out of town. Then you would have gotten 0.28. Which are roots. When you don't have what you like, you eat what you have. Okay, so this is something we could give to this guy. And I think maybe what the channel is guessing is that the similar thing happened with that stick. So if we had gotten... No, the stick was with the... The stick was with the caveman that we got much later. So surely you're not allowed to use it for that. I don't know how you would get this. Maybe the hook, if you didn't use... Remember when we used the hook, in this alternate world, we used the hook to get out of town and we lost it. But maybe this is saying, hey, if you built that hook but you didn't actually use it, here's something fun you could use it for. Is that what it's going to be? If so, that's pretty clever. So 112 and 147. Okay, so let's look at what this game has done. Well, let's read this first. 115. It's actually very, very clever and very subtle. Okay, so it says, you throw the rope and climb the tree. In the nest, you find a few large eggs. Unfortunately, the rope gets hopelessly stuck and you can't pry it loose. Then take 152. Which are the eggs. Okay. So let's look at how this game is mechanically designed. There's 3 ways to get out of the town. In your process of getting out of the town, if you explore more, you can build different items or find items. You can build this grappling hook. You can find a shovel. And then you can find the bomb. You can build the bomb that we did. What this game is doing is it's saying, hey, if you went to all the trouble and spent your actions building this or digging or getting this, but then you used a different way to get out of town, then when you get here to this little forest, it's giving you a way to use these tools that you're carrying around with you. Because you didn't break them to get out of the village. No matter how you get out of the village, you lose that item. So if you had gotten out of the village with this, you break this, and you don't have this. If you got out with the shovel, you break this, you don't have this. And this place is where you can use the other items that you might have built if you wasted your time. So presumably we could have built that bomb and not used it. Built the bomb and then got out with one of these. Then we'd be walking around with the bomb. Not sure where, but I'm guessing there's going to be a place where we could have used the bomb just to use it up and have fun. Jonathan says, these are items that we were told we had, and sometimes it said turn them face down and they were inside the chest in the prison. That's right. That's right. We wondered, once we get captured, it said if you have items, they're locked up. That's why now we know they were not important, but It would be fun to have them. Okay, and then you could have given this guy clearly either the root or the eggs he'd be happy with, instead of the mushrooms that we gave him. All right. All right, well, this is for posterity, so you guys can feel free to leave anytime you want. We still got more stuff to look at, though. I guess we're going to do our normal thing. We're going to take an 8-minute break. We'll come back and we'll look more. We've still got the rest and focus cards that we're curious to see what they look like when you try to dig deeper into them. We've got a couple more things we want to check out in the second chapter regarding putting the orb in the fire. We've got our epilogues to read, and then we've got this deck of cards to look through. So we've still got another hour to go, I guess. All right, well, we're going to take a break here. Feel free to dip out. But if you're curious about under the covers, under the hood of this game, we'll be back to find out more. I'll see you in 8 minutes. Okay, we're back and we are continuing our look behind the scenes of Children of Wyrmwoods at the things we didn't encounter when we did our playthrough. We finished up chapter 1. We've discovered a very interesting little clever trick that the game does. It gives you 3 ways to escape the village. Each of those ways has you building an item. If you use that item to get out, you don't have it anymore. But if you go out a different way and keep the item you built to go out the alternative way, the game has this one little intermission area where you could have used those items to give yourself a little bonus thing. And one of the clever things, in addition to that, is the hunter requires one of them to take you to the next area. Any of the others you build that you don't give to the hunter, you keep, and it boosts your stats. So you do pay a cost in time by building those other items and finding them, which we didn't do. We were very efficiently got out of the village. The consequence then there is that we had less stats when we got into chapter 2. Okay. Chapter 2 was our towers. We explored most of those towers. But I guess there were a couple places we didn't go. We didn't go up here, right? We went to these places. We didn't go to these places. And I can't remember. I think we did go there. Yes, we did go there. We found plants and we did go into the dark areas. So I think maybe the only place... maybe we didn't go to that place either, because we knew that was part of that clue. Is that right? Let's see what those are. I guess we need the location cards for those. Can I put those away? Might be harder to get in there than I thought. The sticky note squares, huh? Okay, let me see if I can find those. So these are all cards we did see. Somewhere in here is our map cards. There's that map card. If I skip past the other one. Okay. Jonathan says, I also see the blue flame near the bottom of the deck. Grab that as well. Oh, because we wanted to try the blue flame, you mean this? Because we wanted to try that with the orb. Oh, I see. Yes, this. Okay, good. Okay, I got it. Put this back away. Okay. Probably shouldn't have put all that away. All right, so let's go to the two places, the couple places we didn't go here. We didn't go to this location, I don't think. 100% sure, but let's go to it now. 237. 237 says, on the wall you notice 3 glowing boxes. Each of them is depicting moving images of oddly dressed people speaking a language loosely reminiscent of your own tongue. Although you understand some of the words, you cannot make out the full meaning. Suddenly, one of the voices changes, and you recognize it as the voice that spoke to you at the entrance to this section of the tower. So what do you think, Gilbert? The voice asked. Do you think this is the past or the future? Choose my tower and you will find out for yourself. You step back to look at all the images at the same time and bump into a strange table. A closed box stands on its top. You wonder what kind of code will let you open it. Take cards 60, 65, and 75. Wow, 3 cards in one shot. 60, 65, and 75. That's kind of exciting. Makes you wish we had gone there. So they're talking about the 3 television screens. So if we had gone there, we would have gotten these 3 cards. Look at this. Well, we were right in guessing that those looked like weather channels, but look at that. 3 cards for one puzzle given to you all at once. How many more kittens will appear next? Paintings are behind the 3 towers. Was estimated at plus 500. Before we solve that, let's go up to this location here that also had sticky notes. 273. 273 says, you feel that you're in a very special room now. You're especially impressed by a strange round item used to create the door. What's more, some invisible force seems to push you away from it. Only the worthy may pass, whispers a voice in your head. The round item must be important, since more like it can be found in glass boxes, all of which are arranged in a particular way. Could this also matter? C12. Well, this is the globe it's talking about. And indeed, it is part of this puzzle. This puzzle needs 4 pieces. Wow, look at that. Four pieces for this puzzle. 3 you get all at once. That's pretty exciting. Well, it looks like 2 symbols here, 5, 6 symbols here, 2 symbols here. So rainy looks like wind and sun. These are all how many more kittens will appear next? What the hell's that mean? Paintings are behind the 3 towers. Any theories about this puzzle? This is an intriguing one, huh? Jonathan says, seems to me like we need to count things in the map cards again. Kittens on the map cards, paintings behind the 3 tower models at the bottom of the tower. I see. Okay, okay, yeah. Look, here's rain, here's heat, here's sun, Here's wind. So this card number, how many more kittens? Maybe this wind card is the 2 digits here. This rain card, he's got an umbrella, is going to give us the 2 digit here. And this heat card is going to give us the 6 digits here. So how many paintings behind the 3 towers? How would that give us 6? But I think that's clearly what this is. We've got wind, rain, heat. Wind, rain, heat. Matt says, good night all. I'll catch up on the stream tomorrow. All right. Well, we could try to solve this. If our main puzzle solver was still here, we would. Jonathan, I can solve it, but it'll take us a little bit of time. Was estimated at plus 500. I wonder what that means. The thing is, we've put away the tower, so we're not actually going to reassemble the towers and calculate it. He does have a hand with 5 here. All right, we're just going to go look at the hints for this. If you want to play this game and solve it yourself, don't look. We are going to go look at the hints here. So we're working, it's this puzzle here. Oh, it only wants a 3-digit answer? That's kind of weird. Why were we so sure it wanted all these things? Okay, so it looks like it wants 1 digit from here, 1 digit from here, and then 1 digit from here, maybe. How many more kittens? I don't know. Let's see what the hints say. How many cards? This is like 4 cards, and 1 of the location cards, right? That's for counting. Hints. Okay, here we go. Take a careful look at the models. Can you spot something similar on the TV? So 3 models, 3 TVs. We spotted that. Try to combine the TV and the models. Signs on the glass cases might be helpful here. So somehow it's seeming to tell us where or how many paintings. This may be there may be 6 paintings to spot or where they are. Maybe this is where in the tower, like 2 things in this tower, 2 things in the tower to the right, but we didn't have the towers organized in a way. It's probably the words underneath and under the cases. Some are darker. Okay. Take the first 2 words from the ticker shown on the screen informing about strong winds. So here's the winds. Take the first 2 words from the ticker. How many? Next hint. Take the words corresponding to green elements on the glass cases and answer the question. So I guess I see what it's saying. It's saying the number of dashes are the words. So this is saying how many plus 500 paintings are behind the 3 towers. Oh, that's tricky. That's tricky. So we're forming the question by looking at the green underlined thing. So how many, and then the last 2 words here, plus 500 paintings are behind the 3 towers. Wow. So you would count the paintings behind the towers and then add 500 to it. That's tricky. That is tricky. But I guess what's so nice is that by counting all the things, you might make the connection that these are the words in this one. We did connect each this to each this, but we didn't explain what this is. But this is one of these signposting things where, like, it's clear something is being told to you by the fact that there's 2 green and the rest are black. And if you, once you explain this, then the rest falls into place, I guess. Answer is 509. Okay, well, let's put in our 509 and read 250. So if we had solved those, okay, that's pretty cool, actually. Well, it's not a bad puzzle. All right, so if we had done that, we found a strange object in a wooden frame, 76. So if we had solved that puzzle, we would have gotten this, whatever it is. Huh. Not sure what that is. Oh, it's for the camera. It's for the camera. It's for the camera. It's a photographic plate for the camera. That's right. All right. Well, we were wondering when we were going to get to use that camera. So finally, we're going to use it. Let's see. Well, there's our camera. We knew that something was going to be used for that camera, but we never found it. All right. Let's try combining it and see what happens. All right, well, we were wanting to use this camera for a while, so let's see. 256. The strange thing can be put into the device. After inserting the tile, you hear a click and the machine flashes brightly. Did you break something? You quickly yank the tile out and cannot believe what, actually who, you see. How is that possible? How does it work? Take card 154. What do you think we're going to see on this card? Us? Someone else? It's us. It's a photographic negative of us. Photo film of truth. Looking through this film, you see parts of a different world. So +4 sanity you'd get from using this. Nothing else though, but I guess that's what you want. So this would let you get off the mental tower if that's what you wanted. Okay. And then the other place we never went to was here, which I'm curious about, 216. Suddenly, you catch the same scent you always felt when hearing Mora. Oh, did we go here? You dig into the soil and let out a sigh of relief. Message. Oh, we did go there. That's where we found Mora's last note. Okay. That's that. That covers getting out of the tower, but it doesn't cover if we had gone out different towers. So this is the tower we went out. We could have chosen to go out the elemental tower. And we could have chosen to go out the mental tower. All right, let's see what would happen if we had chosen to go out. So there was the tower that we could have gone out very early. The whole team wanted to jump out this tower early. Only my perseverance got us out the time tower. So let's see what would happen if we would go out the elemental tower. Okay. So if Gilbert says to go out the elemental tower, we would end chapter 2 by reading 255. Right. Try to go through this quickly. You take a deep breath and push the large painting. It gives way easily, revealing stairs to the attic. You carefully analyze everything you've been through and start questioning your decision. Is the elemental tower the one you should embrace? Is there a right and wrong choice? Why do you have to choose at all? At the end of the stairs, you get to a small room covered in moss and plants. As you approach, a few birds fly very close to your head. Above the sound of the fluttering wings, you hear a voice you've already heard on one of the lower floors. "Welcome," says an elderly man who you at first mistook for a plant. It's hardly surprising that you made this mistake, as his skin is covered with moss and bark. You greet him politely, but he shushes you and slowly continues. "By getting this far, you have proven worthy of continuing our legacy. You have shown great wisdom and responsibility by choosing the power of the elements. Therefore, I will keep no secrets from you. As you know, there are 3 of us, all sworn to protect humanity. This is why we've been keeping the last of humans safely hidden away. A great war destroyed the very planet we all live on. That part is completely true. However, I must tell you something that I have kept from the other mages. The world around Wyrmwoods is not contaminated. I have burned through almost all of my power to keep as many wonders of nature alive as possible, while also isolating mankind from them. Believe me, when an elementalist speaks of burning, they usually mean it literally. I don't think that people need protection from the consequences of their own actions. It's nature that needs protection from people. Plants, animals, magical creatures are growing in numbers outside of Wyrmwoods. Without human influence, they are undisturbed in their return to where they were before. This is my life's work. I am a human myself, but I don't believe we are the most important of species. Humanity has proven that again and again. All I ask of you is that whatever you decide to do with the power you will receive, you must not let humanity ruin the world again. Or the next time could very well be the last time. Well, that's an interesting choice, much more focused on nature. Discard the towers, discard all these cards, discard the focus. Go to Part 3. Okay, so that was the elemental tower, telling us it's more important that nature survive than mankind. Let's see what happens if we go out the mental tower. This was, in many ways, it seemed like the hardest tower to get out. And the weirdest one. Let's see what happens if we tell Gilbert to go out through this tower. 212. Worm vines on the door to the attic are constantly whispering to you, calling you by name. Finally, you decide to open the door. A little hesitant, you go up the stairs, calmed by the thought that worm vines are exactly what brought you here, so this is the best choice. As you get to the attic, you find a small alchemical laboratory and an old man sitting in a wheelchair. He's wearing a helmet that some of the vines seem to be growing out of. You greet him, but receive no answer. He seems to be sleeping with his eyes wide open. You decide not to disturb him and slowly start looking around the laboratory. After a few long minutes, the man suddenly snaps out of his stupor and starts talking to you. "Oh, you're here, finally. I've been trying to establish solid communication with you pretty much from the day you were born. This is all very exciting, but first things first. Welcome to the Tower of the Mind. This is where the worm vines were created, to help people keep away from the contaminated world outside. It's really important they stay here for their own safety, of course. However, even confined, people need leaders. They need directions. They're like a herd of sheep that, if left unattended, will get into the type of trouble that will eventually end them. We don't want people to die, do we?" He does not leave you enough time to answer. "That's why we need to feed them with the right ideas and give them the right orders. You see, I'm the mentalist, and I was working closely with the other mages to create a natural way to keep humanity safe. Worm vines are my masterpiece. I used all my power to awaken them, so I added a little something just for myself, the ability to control the worm vines with the mind. Only to a limited extent, of course. Now with you by my side and the power you will soon wield, I can go much further. You and I can take that little step beyond which mere influence becomes power to control humanity. And the other mages are surely as drained of power as I am, so they'll not stop us. Join me, and together we will fulfill the destiny that was yours since the day you were born. Wow, this is the Emperor Palpatine moment here in Children of Wyrmwoods. It's the dark side. If we want to, instead of rescuing and reviving humanity, we can control them better. Take card 7. Was there a card that I didn't take in the other thing? Yes, so I forgot to take the wand from the other person. Which was that? Which was the other tower? Well, I can probably just find it here quickly. Okay, so I skipped the Elementalist Tower, told us to take this one. And then the Mentalist Tower to take this one, this wand. Okay, and then that kicks you into chapter 3. But before we did, there was one moment in the game, if you'll remember. We were desperate. We had made a tragic, taken a serious risk. And we took a focus card and we lost our enough spirit to get out. And eventually we managed through pluck and determination to find this amazing trapped soul worth 6 spirit that let us get out. And when we did, and then eventually when we got this, we said, hey, maybe we could put this trapped spirit in the fire and let out this spirit because they're both blue. And I wouldn't let us do it because we needed this so desperately. So we were curious if we could try to let it out. I don't think so. I don't think anything's going to happen, but it is. I promised I would let us try this after we finished. So I'm going to combine the Chalice of Blue Flame with this spirit and see if we can let it out. No. Okay, well, it was a good try. All right, so into chapter 3 we go with the 2 wands. These are other notes I made. Okay, we did that one. All right, so if I remember, let's see. There's Jonathan has another question. Can we also try combining the flask of water we got from the fountain in the elemental tower with the woman we freed from the dungeon? Probably nothing, but she was parched. Sure. Okay, so if we go through our items, this is the other one I wanted to figure out why we didn't have a use for the cure. But where did we get our water? We used up our water when we fed it to the plants. Okay, let's find our water. So there was the water. And the question was, this woman we're carrying around with us, could we give her that water? All right, so I'm just going to try to give her that water for the fun of it. Okay. 176. With 108. We don't even know if we carry this woman around with us, but let's see. No, doesn't want us to do that. Okay, it's all right. I still like to see if we can't find a way to use that antidote. And we'll scan through other stuff to see if there's anything else we could do. Okay, so I don't believe that there's much else in chapter 3. I don't think there's any other choices or ways to use this until you get to the end. And then you combine your wand with the end puzzle, which gives you choices. So we'll look at those. We'll look at those different choices and epilogue. But before we do, what would happen? And Tina says, what would happen if we left early with stamina without having found Mora? That's a good question. Mora gives us a spell book, which lets us find, which gives us more stats and lets us find Sevilla earlier. We'll check into that. We'll see if you can find Sevilla at the town. But let's have a little interlude and check these cards. So remember, we were very miserly digging into these cards, which give you more actions but penalize you. So in the prologue, there's 2 cards, a rest and a focus. We did the rest, but we didn't do this. Let's see what would have happened if we did this. So if we did this, we would have lost the stamina, but we would have gotten 5 more action cards. So we could have, right in the beginning, gotten 5 more action tokens to bank with a very small penalty. So if we had known that, that would have been a smart thing to do. Like, just take this tiny penalty right away and take those 5 actions and bank them. That would have been well worth it to do in the prologue since we kept those things. Okay, in chapter 1, there's 3 cards of each pile. We rested. I guess that's right, but we could have focused 3 times or rested. Let's see if we had rested more. So when we rested, I don't see it now. Let's see, if you had rested more, you would have lost the spirit and gotten 3 action tokens. If you then rested once more, you would have lost another spirit and another sanity and gotten 3 action tokens. Okay. Then if you had focused, you'd lose a stamina and get 3. Focused again, you would lose a stamina and a sanity and get yet 3 more. And focused again, you would lose a stamina and a spirit and gotten 3 more. So is there a pattern here? So if you focus, you always lose a stamina. And then gradually you lose a different stat. And if you rest, you always lose a spirit, at least in chapter 1. That's a little scary. Good thing we didn't do that. Okay, chapter 2. Chapter 2, we chose to rest and focus. In fact, we focused twice in chapter 2, it looks like. So we focused twice in chapter 2. That was where we lost that. Remember, the first time we gained spirit, second time we lost 2. That was terrible. That was the worst moment of the game for me. Let's see what else would have happened if we had focused once more. The final focus, we would have lost 2, 1, 1, 1 and gained 4 action tokens, though. If we had rested, so the first time you rest or focus, you actually gain a spirit. but we would have lost 2 sanity. If we had tried to rest again, we would have lost 1 spirit, lost 2 more sanity. So resting loses your sanity, it seems. But we could have gotten enough action tokens to go everywhere with very minimal cost if we had known to do that. If we had done this, we could have done this to our heart's content and not cared. So probably if we were determined to get our spirit up, we could have just drawn these like crazy and had plenty of actions to go everywhere. So we were stingy about taking these cards, but we really could have kept taking them. I thought they were going to get really worse and worse and more painful. So, but in looking at them now, we see they're still giving you 4 tokens and not doing that much damage. All right, in chapter 3, which is the epilogue, we didn't need any of these, but let's see what they would have done to us. So if we had tried to rest, we would have lost 1 of these to get 2, and 1 of each and get 2. We really didn't need action tokens to spare in the epilogue, but clearly not so punishing. So I guess the bottom line looking behind the curtain for these cards is I thought they were going to be diminishing value. I thought by the time you got to the bottom of this deck, it would be like take 1 card and take 5 minus 5. But really, they weren't that bad. A little bit worse, but not that bad. Although maybe enough to get your sanity, well, not get your sanity below 0. All right, not such a big deal. Let's look through these cards here. And then we'll read our... Well, okay, let's look at our choices here. If we had used these with the final... It's the final puzzles where you use those. Maybe we're going to need those puzzles. So remember, there was 2 shrines that we could end the game at. And they each had their own puzzles. And when you finished the puzzle, you got a final shrine book. Okay, so those are the 2 shrines that you could end the game at. One of mankind and one of matter. And we used our wand on each of these to get different choices. Now let's use these other wands and get out all of the choices that you could have. So if we use the mental wand with the 1 book, we get 315. I forgot you actually read something. Let's see. 315 seems like it's probably just generic text. The only thing we care about is the choices we get. The shrine will allow you to achieve anything you want, influence people. As a price to pay, it'll drain you most of your potential. You'll still be able to have lesser magic. They're all generic. But 166. Oh, take cards 73 and 181. 73 and 181. So these are the 2 choices you have here. There's one. There's one. Okay, so if you go here, let's organize it this way. So this wand lets you get these powers, or we hear. So there's going to be 4 choices, 2 choices for each wand and each book. So if we now use the elemental wand again, But with this book, we're going to get another set of 2 choices. 323. Which we don't need to read. We just know 132 and 184. So remember, the game says there are like 64 options. Okay, so the elemental wand can give us these 4 ending choices. Let's see what they are. Make people fertile, more fertile to better adapt. Unleash the elements against the people. Oh boy. Bring more diverse nature into Wyrmwoods, or let people live freely outside Wyrmwoods. Okay, that's the elemental tower. Now the power of the dark side. Let's see what it can get you. These were creepy. So this one is the 007 wand. 306. Same generic answer, but 177 and 182. Okay. And then if we use it on the other shrine, $326, 134 and 185. Okay, so here are the 4 choices you get if you had used the mental shrine. Free the people touched by worm vines from their influence. We could go against the mage who set this up and do this. Influence people's minds to control them. That's what the mage wanted us to do. That's embracing the dark side. We could deactivate the worm vines or create your own mental force to control the area. This is like the embracing the dark side there. Okay. So 8 new possible endings. Now you shouldn't be able to use this wand. Surely you won't be able to use the wrong wand at the wrong place. All right, so there's our main 8 endings. I forget if we had other choices after we use these, but I guess we're going to walk through these. Let me just see at the chat. John says, it does seem like the stress of not having enough of an attribute was probably mostly an illusion. Do we want to look through the rest of the deck before looking at the endings? Sure, let's do that. We escaped through the town, through the ruins. I don't know if that was... Oh, this is if we remember after we escaped, we got to another room. So these are puzzle pieces for those extra rooms. These are, again, puzzle pieces for the extra rooms. I don't know what this was. Looks like there might be another location we never went to. Another couple puzzles. These are puzzles for those rooms, remember, that were alternate ways to exit the city. So far, these are all related to the other ways to leave the city. Potion. This feels like the explosive potion we made. I thought we discarded it. Was this a different potion we could have made? Again, puzzles related to the alternate way to leave the city. Reward related to the alternate way to leave the city. So look, if you go through each of the different ways to leave the city, Okay, so we wondered, when we left the city, we got stamina. And we wondered if that was a requirement. We wondered if no matter how you get out the city, you get stamina. So one of the reasons why it was so easy for us to do that one tower is because we ended up exiting the village with lots of stamina. But it's clear you actually could have left the village either with a bump in stamina, a bump in spirit, or a bump in sanity. And we happened to leave the village with stamina when really we wanted spirit. Okay, so that's interesting. No way to really know which of those you should have done, though. An amulet, not sure where you would have gotten that. This was another one of the rooms escaping the village puzzle. Again, room escaping the village puzzle. Again, room escaping the village puzzle. Again, room escaping the village. I recognize all these places. This is this, etc. This one is this one here. Same thing, same thing. This is a different, remember when we had to build the explosives, we could have done them, could have built it in a different order. So that's what this car would have been. This was in some fight with the guards, maybe in this room here. Gilbert could have gotten beat up. And again, another puzzle. So actually, all of the rest of these cards are related to the village. The village had some branch points that you could have solved in a different way. Almost not. We saw all of chapter 2. It seems like we saw all of the cards in chapter 3. It's only chapter 1 village that has some puzzles we didn't see. All right. Let's now go through the epilogues. Maybe we'll do a couple of them, then we'll take a break. Let's start with the elemental epilogues. All right. First choice, let's try to make people more fertile to adapt. So I don't know if there's an easier way to do it. It lets us look at the different endings. Let's see. Let's just see there. Here you can check all the alternate endings. Press the button to start. You will need to make a few choices. This menu is hidden before ending the game. Let's just see what this does. Okay, so it looks like we could do it this way rather than scan these cards. If we go to the Tower of Elements and then the Shrine of Mankind, there we go. So unleash the elements against the people or make people more fertile. So that's nice that they have this way. You don't have to scan the cards anymore. You can just read this. Okay, let's unleash the elements against the people. You focus on the planet, on its inhabitants, and everything on its surface. You can sense everything the mage told you about. Life flourishing everywhere, a plethora of life forms evolving and adapting to a world without humans. A sense of great harmony fills you, a cycle that is sometimes harsh, maybe even brutal. You become certain that it's worth preserving more than the corrupted mankind. Hopefully, new, better, more reasonable beings will rise up to rule this world one day. Okay, and then so we've got 12 choices, and then each of the 12 has a branch point here, whether we have civilia or not. All right, let's see what happens. If we have civilia, then here's our ending. So we've got an ending of the world and then the ending with civilia. Civilia gently touches your arm. It must be done, she whispers into your ear. You understand the sadness in her voice, but she's there with you, and it's all that matters to you now. You focus again, this time on Wyrmwoods, the town, the village, the forest. Your will alone shakes the ground and awakens a volcano that erupts, flooding the lands you've come to know. Oh my God. You protect just the shrine you're in. After the lava comes howling winds. The forest burns and dies as your anger and determination grow. Finally, you fall to the ground, exhausted and drained. Sevilla wakes you up, and the two of you leave the shrine together. So you burned everyone. You burned the entire villages. And then if we have a high spirit, it branches again. What you find outside is truly apocalyptic. The ground is covered in ash. Not a single tree is still standing. You wander around and witness the havoc you've rained down upon this land. Everything is destroyed, wiped from the face of the planet without a trace. Even the towers are gone. Yet, soon enough, the fertile ground starts giving birth to new small plants. You leave the desolated Wyrmwoods and wander the world outside. You walk plains, forests, and jungles. You encounter wild animals, some friendly and curious, others dangerous and hostile. Magical creatures from of myth, unicorns, fairies, even a dragon. All that has existed, who knows how long, beyond the mountains surrounding Wyrmwoods. Seeing all those wonders, you become certain that what you've done was the right thing to do. After some time, you return to Wyrmwoods to find a beautiful green oasis. You even manage to locate Mora's basement and find that she still lives inside, lost in her pointlessness. You tell her what you've done and try to convince her to leave, but she refuses, claiming that a world without people is a world without her. Then she goes to sleep, asking you to never wake her again. If your sanity and charisma is more, all right, well, ours would have been more than 40. Let's see what we got here. You travel with Sevilla to every corner of the planet and see many wondrous creatures and plants on your way. Her sadness slowly subsides, and both of you find joy in this new life. Over the years, decades, and centuries, you see new species rise and evolve. I don't know how we're living centuries. The twilight of your lives comes after many centuries, but before the end, you manage to see a new intelligent life awaken in the world. You both decide to never bring new humans to life. So when it's time to rest, your only hope that humanity's successors will take better care of what they have than those that came before them. That was pretty serious. All right, let's just peek a little bit. If we had bad sanity and charisma, travel world, da-da-da. Oh, I see. Yet you are never able to restore her happiness. While she agrees with what you've done, living as vagabonds in an alien world and knowing your families were destroyed by your choices keeps tearing her apart. One day she tells you she's pregnant with your child, but that she does not have the strength to raise it in this world. Sometime later she gives birth and she goes into an eternal slumber. You continue your travels with your son, but decide to never give him a name. Slowly but inevitably, you grow old and tired and leave the last living human being, your child, alone in an empty world of unimaginable wonders. Oh my God, that's terrible. What if we didn't even have less than 11 spirit? The destruction you unleashed is of unprecedented scale and scope. Most of the forest is burned down to the ground, and you find no signs of people alive anywhere near the town or the village. The only things still standing are the towers. Wandering around, you see that the mages are watching you closely, each of them probably scheming now, even deprived of most of their power. You leave them be and try not to think about them anymore. Your destination is everywhere but Wyrmwoods. You leave the desolated Wyrmwoods and wander the world outside. You walk plains, forests, and jungles. This is if we don't have Sevilla, I guess. You encounter wild animals, some friendly and curious, others dangerous and hostile, magical creatures from of myth. All that has existed, who knows how long beyond the mountains, you become certain that what you've done was the right thing to do. And then if we don't have good sanity, one day you return to Wyrmwoods to find the forest has grown back. You also discover a new city, inhabited by people you've never seen. You become furious and call upon a fire to rain down on this land. You burn, kill, and destroy. This is if we're mad. Your vision goes red and you see no end to your rage. You don't stop until everything around you is dead and turned to ashes. Finally, having calmed down, you see that your body has grown weak and fragile. Your eyes fall upon the corpse of a woman you once loved. It looks like she tried to shield a child from your fiery wrath. You spend the final hours of your life in tears. You'll never find out what happens to the planet in the future, but you know that humans will not destroy it again. There are some rough endings here, huh? I think we did all of those. Oh, even here, charisma. If we didn't find Sevilla. A single thought about a girl from a different world crosses your mind. Sevilla is the ultimate sacrifice you have to make. You tell yourself that her life would be extinguished in time anyway. And focus once more, this time on Wyrmwoods, the city, the village, the forest. Your will alone shakes the ground and awakens a volcano. Okay, so we haven't found Sevilla, but we're doing our destruction anyway. And then if our spirit is good, it's all apocalyptic. Wyrmwoods is a green oasis. This is all good stuff I'm clicking here. Your loneliness is eating you up. More regret. Long before your body grows truly old, your mind drowns in mortal despair. You return to where the town in Wyrmwoods used to be and lie down for the final rest, exactly where Sevilla's room once was. If you don't find Sevilla, you're not happy. But if you go mad, we become feeble, unable to defend yourself. Shortly after, you're attacked by a pack of magical creatures. The fight is short, and as you're struck by a final blow, you accept that this is probably for the best for everyone. Okay, crazy. Wow, there are a lot of serious epilogues here. When they say there were 64 epilogues, they're not joking. They are really fully written epilogues that change dramatically based on your stats. That was all, everything we looked at there, and we didn't even look at them all, was all for unleashing the elements. All right, we're not going to look at every single combination, but we'll look at a little couple more. Let's try to make the people more fertile. Let's find some good endings here. Okay. You make them, you channel your energy to subtly modify humans, making them more fertile and eager to reproduce. Then you watch as during the following weeks, people become much more drawn to each other. It causes a bit of chaos and disorganization at first, but a new order quickly succeeds the old one. Soon a massive change happens as more and more women start bearing new life. Okay, and if we have Sevilla, surely we're going to have some kids now. All this time, Sevilla remains in her house where you have no easy access even now. As you definitely don't want to be seen as an enemy, you wait until the next sacrificial day to reconnect. However, when that time comes, you see she's not banished. It puzzles you, so you decide to go see her, ready for anything but what you actually encounter. As you see her in the window of her home, embracing another man. She's visibly pregnant. Seems the new order of the world has also affected her. Yikes. And I'm going to click if we're less than 10. If we're not sane, let's see what happens. An unstoppable rage grows inside you, and without thinking, you throw a lightning ball towards the man, burning him alive. Sevilla looks at you from the window, utterly shocked, before she cries out in agony, closes her shutters, and hides from you inside the house. You want to get to her, so you burn through the door and rush inside, but she flees from you outside, screaming for help. Angry people turn to you and stand in your way. You still manage to burn some of them before, in an act of surprising mercy, they knock you out. You wake up in a small basement. You quickly realize it's the same place where everything had started what seems like an eternity ago. Now you're chained to the wall and wounded and nobody to talk to. For the first few weeks, someone is bringing you food and water. Then it stops, and it dawns on you you've been forgotten. You don't ever hear anyone walking upstairs. Did they move out of town? Have they left Wyrmwoods? You never find out. Your shackles prove too stout to break, and you realize you'll spend the rest of your days right here. Yikes. If we did have sanity, though, then we want to get to her. She flees. We still kill the guy, and they lock us up. Wow, sanity or not, it's bad ending. So that was if we didn't have Sevilla. If we do have Sevilla, All this affection people now have towards each other starts to work for the two of you too. You take a break, share a passionate time with Sevilla, forgetting about all the troubles. When your first twins grow a bit, you decide that they need other people around them, so you decide to go back and live amongst humans once again. You get to the city, you see the population has doubled. If I have high spirit, it's all going to be a happy, nice, happy ending. Sevilla's return shocks the town. Her family's confused, welcomes her at first, tries to conceal her presence. She refuses to cooperate, uses your help to prove that the cult was in fact manipulating everyone. With the truth exposed, her family loses their stature and properties, and Sevilla is chosen as people's leader. She promises to never follow the way of her ancestors. Leadership skills prove extremely helpful. The villagers start a new life. You visit Mora. This time you see that her loneliness is starting to take a toll on her, and you notice she's suffering. Eventually, you convince her to return with you. When order and balance are restored, you spend most of your days with Sevilla. A few generations later, people start to challenge the towers again. Dozens of them venture out every month. Every few months, someone comes back with new powers. Naturally, these people keep their powers and start gathering followers. Some venture out of Wyrmwoods, some fight each other. A new era of tribalism is near. But you've already built a new world, and at some point it's time for you to retire with Sevilla. You find a secluded island far away, bid farewell to your children and grandchildren, and you end your days in each other's arms. Let's read some of Jonathan's comments. John says, it seems that many groups will get probably middling endings. I guess they are interesting, but it doesn't seem like anyone is actually going to replay the whole game. These endings are cool, but I'm not sure it was the best use of resources. Shame that these seem like some of the most interesting things to read, but you're going to read most of them after beating the game. I wish the scenes in the main game could have been more compelling like these. I think you have a good point. I mean, I've talked a lot about how it's weird to have these elaborate different endings where the person's only going to see one if the endings aren't based on your choices, although on moral choices that you can predict. Although here you did have some moral choices. Although the part that I find most troubling is that you could miss getting Sevilla, but I guess that would be your fault, right? Because you can go get Sevilla as long as you remember to do so. But God help you if you finish the end of this and you haven't found Sevilla. All right, let's go back. There's so many endings here. It's really quite impressive. Too much for us, but let's see. Bring more diverse nature in and let people live freely. Okay, I think we're done with those. We haven't seen, so there's a whole bunch of endings we haven't seen related to the elemental, but they seem similar. Now let's go to the dark side. We're going to choose the Tower of the Mind. All right. If we try to influence people's minds to control them, let's see what happens. You concentrate and make a mental connection with the heart of the worm vines. This allows you to hear what they whisper into the minds of the touched. Try to sever the link. As you black out from exhaustion, you begin to hear hundreds of voices. All right, so let's check out the best ending if we have Sevilla with us. You wake up, Sevilla holds your head gently and looks at you, her eyes filled with care. Are you all right? Did it work? You don't know at first, just then you hear a cacophony of voices in your head. You hear yourself scream in agony. Shut up, you cry as the voices fall silent in an instant. Gilbert? I'm sorry, you mumble. I didn't mean you. I could hear all their voices. Now they're silent, so I think it worked. Are you sure you're all right? You're very far from sure. Yet you assure Sevilla that you're right. Everything's okay. The two of you visit the village. It's complete silence. The villagers go about their business without uttering a word. At first you don't understand, then you focus your will to get them to start singing. They comply immediately, leaving you certain that you can now control all of those once touched by worm vines. What now? Sevilla asks you. How will we help them? By making sure they'll not do anything stupid. You answer, your lips cracking a smile at the thought of all the possibilities at your disposal. Sevilla doesn't understand who you have become. You make your effort to tell her. Sometime later, your head is filled with another voice, one that bends other people to its will. Is it another mage? All right, I'm going to say we have less than 11 spirit. You get furious and order other people not to follow the mage. However, it seems to work only for a handful of those closest to you. It becomes obvious that you cannot rule by yourself, so you propose to split the human race, and the mage accepts. You take all of your followers and lead them into the town where all residents are given one by one to the Wyrmwoods. Whoa! Once everyone's under their influence, you split the population in half, taking command of the village. You promise to help them and not make them less human, Sevilla shouts at you upon your return. Well, there's no place for disobedience, so you plan to cast her to the Wyrmwoods, but she manages to escape. You order all your villagers to look for her. The search takes months, but with no success. Finally, you get an idea. You go to Mora and pretend nothing has happened yet and beg her to help you find Sevilla. She finally agrees and leaves her basement just to be apprehended by your people. She's promptly cast into the Wyrmwoods, yet she comes out unharmed. You forgot we're immune, didn't you? Mora asks you with a crooked smile on her face. It was really foolish of you. Now I know who the real enemy is. Then she slips away from your followers and escapes. Mere days later, you start to lose control of your people one by one. Finally, when no one is under your influence anymore, Sevilla returns. She casts you out and orders her people to hunt you down. When an angry mob rushes you, a head of white hair catches your eye nearby. That's Mora. You run and hide for the next few weeks, but are finally cornered and killed somewhere in the wild. Wow. Okay. We don't need to read more of this ending. It's all pretty nasty. If we free the people, John says, I want to check the ending where you put yourself to sleep from the set of time powers. Okay, we'll do that one. Let me see what else. Free the people, that doesn't look too interesting. Let's go to the other one. Trying to matter. Okay, we could deactivate the Wyrmwoods or create our own mental force to control the area. That's very similar to the one we just did. All right, let's see if we deactivate. Perhaps controlling the population is a good way to stop them from harming each other. If it is, you should not leave such a power in the hands of a madman. You channel as much power as you can to depriving the Wyrmwoods of their power, making the hybrids no more than regular plants. And if we have high spirit, it says, you sense the moment when the ties are broken, instantly know no one will ever again fall under their influence. Completely exhausted yet satisfied. You've used all the powers, and now if we have, let's see if we don't have Sevilla. You rest long enough to regain strength. The mind control is gone. Changes already. You go into town, but what awaits you there is a nightmare. You encounter a crowd of people gathered around some kind of altar from which Heliot is finishing his speech. And so, he shouts, as the forest accepted our sacrifices, we now presented with the most precious gem. In return, we ask for abundance of food and resources to help in the years to come. As he grabs a large knife, you notice Sevilla chained to the altar, her mouth gagged with a piece of cloth. All right, I'm going to say I have spirit. Maybe we can get her out. You shout and run, casting all of your power at Heliot. He stops for just a second as you push all of the madness into his head. We are saved, he shrieks suddenly, brandishing a blade. My job is already done. He slits his own throat, blood gushing on his clothes. You don't waste any time. You grab the very knife he used, free Sevilla, flee with her. People are so shocked nobody even tries to stop you. As you leave, you shout at them, the forest wants no more sacrifices. You're free. You want to have nothing more to do with this madness, so you take Sevilla back to the village. It takes mere days for her to recover, yet she fully overcomes the trauma caused by her own father. She stays by your side for the rest of her days, but the joy you had shared years ago is gone forever. When she passes away, and long after the last of the people touched by Wyrmwoods are gone, you decide to leave for good. Villagers are taking good care of themselves and the townfolk. You have no idea. You never go to town, and you have never ever lent your ear to news of them. You wander away, leaving the mountains behind for good. Only then you discover that the world outside is in fact hospitable and full of natural and magical life, free of people. You spend your days traveling far and wide to see wonders you never imagined existed, and you never see another human again. Yikes. Okay, there's more options there we're not going to look at, but we are going to look at this dark side thing. Your vision of absolute control over people is compelling to you, yet you don't want to share this kind of power with anyone else. That's why you channel all the power you can find away from the worm vines. This creates a fog that starts appearing everywhere and poisons people, making them susceptible to your will and desires. All right, I'm going to say we have 20 more stamina. I'm going to give us the biggest power over people. Let's see. You quickly make a connection with the fog, which you can now control. You realize you can concentrate around particular individuals to have a stronger influence on them. Spreading it thinner offers less control, but allows you to cover a much larger area. As you experiment with using it around the town, you're sure you can do anything with it. However, as you move into the village, you realize that the influence of worm vines is not gone, and you have much less control over people already touched by them. All right, so if we have Sevilla, we could do this, but I'm going to say no, we don't. You return to town and influence Sevilla's father to confess that his ways were wrong and leave his office. Then you spread the thought that Sevilla should be his successor, and she becomes the new mayor. As she welcomes you back, you tell her about the power you got, and first thing she asks you is how you want to use it. You have no idea, but you don't want to admit that to her. You influence people to make sure nobody wants to disobey her rulings. You visit the village and try to convince people to return to town. However, those touched by worm vines are too attached to their place here, so they refuse. You conclude that it must be the influence of another entity blocking your power, but you don't care enough to fight it. You have others to take care of for now. Long months pass and everything seems to go well until one day Sevilla comes to you with a question. Can you sense what people around you feel? Yes, you agree reluctantly. So tell me, are they happy with us watching over them? I can make them feel happy if you want, you respond without thinking. What? No, Gilbert, Sevilla's appalled. I want them to be happy and live good life, not to feel forced to feel some artificial happiness. It's inhumane. If your charisma is 6 or more, or less than 6, that's interesting. So this is if we don't find Sevilla. All right, let's say less than 6. Let's ride this out. You don't understand the difference, and she starts explaining some nonsense to you. You call the fog into the very room you're in to influence her mind. You make her forget her questions and doubts. Oh, it doesn't matter, I guess, she says in an absent voice. I'm just happy we can be together at last. As time goes by, you start using the fog on her more and more just to avoid difficult questions. She still manages to keep the town working, but with time you have to focus more on keeping Sevilla's thoughts at bay. That's probably why you miss the moment when worm vines sneak into the town and start taking townsfolk one by one. Before you're able to respond accordingly, pretty much everyone around is touched by them, everyone but you and Sevilla. You take her away as far as you can to protect her, but she keeps asking questions. You have to use all your power just to keep Sevilla from asking questions. You live like that for a few weeks, but you know it's wrong. Finally, you free her from all your influence and leave. You don't know what happens to her later as you go back to Mora's basement to admit her words were true. You stay there with her, waiting for somebody else to right all that you've wronged. All right. So we looked at a sampling of epilogues. It's incredible that they wrote so many. Checking in with the chat. Jonathan wants to see the time, and Antony, is it possible we could see what would have happened if we left immediately after his 10 stamina when we still had low stats? I think that's what we're basically doing now. All right, so Jonathan wanted, our last thing we're going to do is look at the time tower, which we went through, Tower of Time, and now we're going to look at one of the endings we didn't choose. So we could teach people how to use the technology or speed up time. That was weird. We didn't do either of those. we woke up humans from the backup bunker. But what would have happened if we chose to hibernate ourselves? That's what Jonathan wanted to see. So let's see. You're wrapped in the energy of the portal and cast into a dark cave. After you light a torch, you notice hundreds of people suspended in hibernation. There's no going back now. All right, so we had Sevilla, so I'm going to click 20 or more. All right, Sevilla embraces you and lays down. You spend one last night with her before both of you fall asleep for a long time. There's no way of telling how long that takes, but both of you awake in a small house on a bed that's not big enough for the two of you. Shortly after you leave the house, you find hundreds of people wandering about and chattering, completely confused, remembering nothing from what happened before. Sevilla and you become their leaders. In fact, her leadership skills are incredible, and you surely wouldn't be able to manage these people the way she does. She explains what had happened and what is about to happen if people will not work together in search of answers. They follow her without hesitation. Okay, and our sanity was more than 10, so I'm going to click 10 or more. So here's our ending if we had chosen that. You let Sevilla lead the people while you teach them about what you've learned. You know they are the last of humankind. There are no more backups. That's why you give them all you have. You educate and prepare them for trials. In some spare time, you wander to the forest looking for Mora's hideout. When you finally find it, she's already dead. You bury her respectfully. Living peacefully in the town, Sevilla gives birth to 3 of your children. After they come of age, they sneak out of the town one night. You're extremely worried, but a day later, all 3 come back, each wielding a different power. With new powers at their disposal, they start to carve a new path for humanity to exist and finally combine their gifts into a single augmentation of synergy that they bestow upon all humanity. They connect each and every human being to invisible nerve strands of nature so that people share in all good and harm done to nature. From that moment on, worm vines become obsolete and humanity starts to flourish. People start to invent new and better ways to develop tools and advance technology, but also to preserve what Mother Nature gave them in the first place. You finally leave them for a much-deserved retirement on a secluded isle full of magical creatures. All right, pretty big ending. John says, I thought this ending might be weirder. It was weird. We chose to hibernate and it just woke us right up. But maybe there were other bad things that could happen. So we did the backup bunker. What if we had chosen to give people technologies? Let's see. We transcribe it into books, countless tomes, all in your handwriting. You look through them, can't understand a thing. And if we have Sevilla, then we get this. She sits next to you in silence. She looks through the books. She stops at one of them. Yes, this is where we shall start. I can understand the basics outlined here. You see this? She starts explaining your notes to you. You still don't understand a thing. It becomes clear she's way smarter than you. However, that comes as no surprise. She was raised in a family that owned many books. If I can study this and share this knowledge with the people, let them develop their masonry and keep them safer. Look at this. What a great idea to optimize production. And she falls silent for a moment, her eyes following the text, all bright in astonishment. Oh, that's a wonderful new way to harvest the fields. All right, and if we have high sanity, we get this. You create a time bubble around Sevilla. Leave her be for now. You want to spend more time with her, but now her mission is much more important. You leave her a note describing how to exit the bubble when needed. With extreme concentration of time threads, she can study for years. Mere days will pass in the outside world. You wait out of the bubble as she jumps out every few minutes or hours, excitedly reporting to you on her findings, spending some time with you before going back in. You soon stop even trying to understand what she's telling you and just enjoy her enthusiasm. Weeks and months pass when she finally tells you she's ready for a huge project, but she'll need your help with one specific problem. She tries to explain to you what the problem is, but you don't understand a word, so you silence her with a long kiss and tell her that you love surprises. You venture to the village, not trusting the townsfolk enough to visit them, and Sevilla explains her ideas to the locals. At first, they look at her like as if she was insane, but somehow she manages to convince them to help. They build a large hall together. They mine a new type of ore in the mountains and melt it into strange shapes that become part of the building. The hall itself is large enough to fit dozens of people and shape and its shape is unlike anything you've ever seen. It's built on a circular base, but it's not supported by any pillars inside. When all is done, Sevilla puts a large crystal at the top of the hall and finally asks for your help. You are to move her time bubble from the shrine onto the crystal and embed it inside. You don't understand why she wants this, but you comply nonetheless. As it turns out, this expands the time bubble to include the whole building. Sevilla starts calling the hall a university and begins to teach villagers that come there regularly to learn. Soon, villagers start building advanced tools, optimizing their construction and agriculture. You feel a bit obsolete, yet proud that your work has gone so well. Sevilla spends all her time away from teaching with you. It takes just a few generations until people start using the new invention of electricity and turn their ambitions to the sky. You observe this from a distance, hoping that the fates of ancient civilizations will not be repeated again. All right. Okay, that was exhausting. Not the way to play the game, to read everything, but it was interesting to look into it. Jonathan says, I guess most would probably get an interesting ending with a mix of positives and negatives. I think that's right. I think it would be better if the endings were more based on different moral choices you made through the game. Feels a bit unpredictable. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's where I would come down. It's incredible how much work went into this game, and it's incredible how much that they wrote all these different endings, and we didn't see all of them. Maybe we saw half of them. That's so impressive and so generous, but it's weird to make all those different endings based on unpredictable outcomes. You couldn't really predict. I mean, your stats being better gets you a better outcome, but choosing which thing to do, there's no predictable way. And the weird part about that is it seems to me that the only thing you gain then by having so many different outcomes is that different groups will get different outcomes. But I've said this before, I don't really understand the point of that. For any given person, they just get one outcome. So why does that matter? It seems to me that you would be better off making branching outcomes dependent on moral or psychological choices. So instead of saying, do you want to use this wand, or do you want to use this power or this power? If it's not predictable what will happen, then I view that choice as being pointless. It would have been more interesting if you had choices like, here's the villain, do you want to show them mercy or punish them? And do you want to live in the town with Sevilla or take her far away to live elsewhere? Do you want to try to save humanity, or would you rather create a new humanity? Those choices would at least give you some feeling of agency and let you do what psychologically you get more pleasure from. So as much as I think these are amazing to have so many choices, it's a little odd to have them based on things that you can't predict. But I think what we see here is a very generous game with a real focus on interesting narrative. I mean, all of those outcomes are very interesting and strange, and interesting how each of them had little branching parts depending on your stats. So clearly you want to get your stats maximized. I think we could look through the book some more for things we haven't seen, but I think maybe I'm burned out. I'm ready to move on. We've seen a lot of it, most of it. Really quite an incredible game. And I guess if you're going to make some more comments about the things we didn't see, they all fall into that same category that we just talked about, which is there are branching parts here that you couldn't predict what would be better or worse. And it's just a little weird to have those branching things be so random. One group is going to see one subset, another group is going to see another subset, but that's not based on logic. It's not even based on some instinctual choice. It's just based about sort of random things. And I think the other thing we saw with looking at those rest and focus cards is that it's sort of a mistake to believe the game when the game tells you to rush and hurry. A group will have a worse experience if they try to rush and get through without taking those rest and focus cards. In many ways, having that stress about taking them was important for us to increase our enjoyment, but you kind of want someone behind the scenes to tell you, or someone to tell you, no, don't rush out of that second tower. I mean, don't rush out of chapter 2. And maybe you'd be better off playing this game, taking those rest and focus cards until you explore every area. I think you might, the chance of having a bad time if you rush through is real. So that's an interesting thing. Well, we're now at the point where we can answer the question about if when you look behind the scenes, does the magic of this game melt away? In some ways, when Greg and I played Escape Tales The Awakening, which is clearly a sort of practice run at this game, Escape Tales The Awakening is a much, 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 much less ambitious game with only a couple slightly different endings. But when we looked at the behind the curtains for that one and saw everything, Greg was like, their choices didn't really matter. Here it feels much more real. The choices really do matter, although you don't really have much basis for making those choices. But does looking behind the scenes take away any of the magic? No, not at all. In fact, looking behind the scenes makes the game seem even a little bit more magical in terms of how many different endings, how many different paths, the different objects we could have used and ways to use them. So really, I do think this is quite a special game. Jonathan, any final thoughts from you on this game? I mean, this is pretty amazing. I think, there are some critiques here about what's the point of all these different endings if you don't use any logic to choose them? And what's the danger in this game of having a bad experience if you sort of rush through? And could the instructions be worded in a way that encouraged you not to leave early? Maybe it would have been better if the instructions say something like the opposite of what it said. So the instructions basically tell you, hurry up, don't dawdle. And that it was only by disobeying that in chapter 2 that we got a more interesting response. Maybe it would have been better for it to say something like, make sure you fully explore the entire area, but be very careful about which rest or focused cards you choose. Then you would still have the huge nervousness about drawing a rest or a focus card, and maybe that would give you the tension while not encouraging you to leave quickly. John says, still overall a very enjoyable experience. It did seem some sort of stat management was a bit of an illusion. So I'd hope the written narrative in low memory would be more consistently compelling. I do agree with you. I think this game rests on illusion quite a bit, but that's what I advocate for. Like, that is completely reasonable, and I think that's a valid way to make these games, that you're sort of creating the illusion of danger, the illusion of the possibility of making terrible decisions, and sort of curating the experience as a game designer behind the scenes so that even when players make bad choices, you recover them through it, but give them that tension, that fear of making a bad choice. So for me, that illusion approach is completely valid. John says basically what I'm saying. Having the perception we could wind up with too low stats was important. Yes, I think that's right. And this game is willing to let you end have bad endings. This game is willing to let you play through the whole game, and then if you forget to visit Sevilla, you could have bad endings. John says, I think it works for a one-off. It's harder to think it would work as efficiently if done similarly in a sequel. Interesting, I don't know. So maybe I'll make a spoiler-free review of this soon, but we're going to call it a night tonight. 3 hours looking at this. That's a bit rough. 6 viewers still left in the channel, but maybe for preserving for history, so people who play this and want to look a little bit behind the scenes can do so. I had a great time. Great group. Real teamwork. A pleasure. Maybe we'll play Escape Tales Low Memory soon. I've read some of the reviews on Board Game Geek for this game rank the 3 as The Awakening, then Low Memory, and then this one as the real pinnacle. So I think we have probably played the best one, but I'd still be interested in trying Low Memory. All right, I'll see you guys on the next video.